His story's called Wrong John Silver. John knew he'd fall off the wagon today. Carl had warned him about this, the uncharted territory of prolonged sobriety. He told him to be careful because he could see the signs in John's recent behaviour. His bad moods and those fits out of nowhere anger where he would hit himself repeatedly and pull at his hair. The head banging, the hate. John drove towards the shops thinking about this, and as he thought about it, he felt helpless because he had no control over it really. Plus it wasn't happening now, was it? No point in thinking about it. He just didn't think it was that heavy or that important to face because he had no idea what to face. What was it? He didn't know. So would find himself accepting the pain that always followed. John had planned a meal later that evening. He had popped out to buy wine and meat and would probably get lager too. He walked up the back way along the old wall that separates the park from the streets behind. The back way was the highest point in the park, and the old wall that stood behind it encased the war cemetery that lay behind the park. Victorian brick, rotting in Sutton, fumes from endless traffic, blackened the feel of the park, especially the back way, and together with the endless tombs of dead soldiers, it was a pretty oppressive area. John liked it though. He liked the tits and the dick that hid behind the trees at night, the orgies at any one of the 3 park benches that lined the pebbled path of the back way, fingering his little packet of drugs every 30 minutes. He called it his packed lunch as he navigated this yellow brick road into the grips of narcotic sexual fit, wanking and grabbing. Carl was already home when John arrived back at the house. That cunt dragged 5 of us in the office today and hammered out this promotion proposal. Really, John said, rooting through the shopping. What kind of proposal? Oh, fucking running our floor because Marie got the sack today. He fucking sacked her. Yeah, she just stormed out at lunchtime, which was cool. I mean, she was fucking useless, but I thought it was a bit out of order, to be honest. Yeah, too right. She wasn't that bad. I mean, she was into all that fucking Britain First bollocks, but, you know, hardly sackable, is it? The whole country's into it. Plus, she never brought it to Word, did she? No, I know. We just laughed like fuck at her Facebook page when she went off to print the orders. All those quotes from fucking Churchill and shit photographs in pubs with lots of other face-white twats. Yep, I know. I just think Martin sacked her because he's a cunt anyway, and it didn't matter who was in charge. That cunt sacks whoever on a yearly basis, doesn't he? He's a fucking right cunt who wanks over the young temps in his office, the dirty fat cunt. Yeah, Martin's a fucking right fat, friendless, paedophile cunt. So what did he say? Carl reeled off the story as John unpacked the shopping. He'd been offered the chance to prove himself as a potential manager for the floor he'd worked on, and as he explained the setup to John, John knew it wasn't going to end well. Carl had been dragged into his boss's office with 4 other people, and they were all told the same thing. So it was almost like a fight to the death for what was basically a few more grand a year and shed loads more grief. John had Martin sussed out. He was a mid-40s wash-up who had a talent for running a small events company. He preyed on the minds of the younger members of staff, shagging them when he could. He had a surprisingly good measure of charm, but it unfortunately had the Cinderella effect, and after a certain amount of time, it would turn into a plate of dog shit in the eyes of his previously blinded victim. Martin was a small putzel on the arse of capitalism, a little soul, undeveloped but able to buy a Porsche. Cunts drive Porsches. What a fucking awful idea, Carl. Essentially, he's pitching you against each other. What a cunt. It'll cause massive grief, mate. I mean, look at who you work with. Fucking George and Conrad, they are proper cunts, Carl. That fucking George is a prime fucking idiot. Sits in a bedsit, drinking whiskey every night, listening to fucking Sonic Youth, pretending he's part of the cultural elite. He's a fucking twat. Conrad, he's a cunt too, and the rest, for fuck's sake, Carl. I'd think about this. I mean, the money would help. Exactly, it would. Anyway, we'll talk about it later. It's no skin off my nose at the minute. Early days. Did you get any lager? The 2 men sit at the table drinking, and after a brief time, John kissed Carl's hand. You want to go out tonight? Carl looked at him. No way. You know what we spoke about earlier this week? You know as well as I do that you'll just end up looking for fucking drugs and everything else that comes with it. Oh, fuck off, Carl. I only fancy a beer. After another brief period of silence, John got up and motioned to Carl to do the same. John fucked him over the table. It was Friday, fuck it. And as his pelvis slapped against Carl's arse, he could feel the Cronenberg slip into his blood's main route. It set up home nicely and relaxed all of the dark mould growing over John's brain cells. He watched himself in the mirror that hung on the wall near the dining table and angled it so he could see the top of his thighs. He came, retracted, and took another sip from his can. Carl hung in exhaustive repair. John was a sex addict, or so they thought. He used drugs and booze to transport him into some kind of a weird porn world where his identity no longer existed. In this world, John turned into a sharpened sexual deviant, a peddler to these mindless urges where consequence wasn't an option. Carl often thought he was trying to get away from something, that he'd acted as a release button for God knows what, and he was determined to cure this in his partner. He knew John was a strong man, a good man, and a man that could overcome this debilitating, can't even say that word, behavioural pattern. They both paid a price for the realities of such a condition. John's price was the limitless journeys into fuck arenas where flesh was grabbed, swiped at and thrown around. Holes and mouths were fucked and magazines and websites worshipped. Hours spent hiding in bushes, masturbating and watching porn on his phone. This was too hazardous, and it ate away at Carl because this was his journey too. John would go AWOL, often for 2 or 3 days at a time. A good spell would be short, a night perhaps, but mainly it was a good 72 hours of Carl feeling helpless, crying into every word that managed to come out of his mouth, and the words that didn't escape would just slip back in, crashing at the cliff edges of his teeth and smashing into 1,000 fucking pieces. Word wrecks, victim to the storm, and the storm was always John Silver, or as Carl called him occasionally, wrong John Silver. Carl would call 1,000 numbers trying to locate him and get nothing back. The worry was so damaging that it creased his face permanently. He wondered what made him stick around. Why the fuck is this a feature in my life? Carl loved him. He loved John's grasp on the good forces in life, and they did exist. Qualities like reason, compassion and intelligence. John believed in existence and its quest for deliverance from all inhuman destruction. Carl could see that in him, and he loved him for it. You want a line? John tried again, checking the contents of his can of lager by shaking it side to side. No, I fucking don't. It's 6:10 for fuck's sake, and I told you dozy cunt. I knew you'd want to fall off the fucking wagon. Oh, for fuck's sake, John. You need to chill out, you cunt. It was only a joke. It wasn't, though, was it? You'll be fucking the wall in 2 hours and watching porn like you do. I can see it now. Fucking waste of time, John. Fucking waste of time. Why is it a waste of time? Fuck it, it's Friday. What else are we going to do tomorrow or Sunday? Fuck all, that's what. What else have we got really? A fucking ass in 7 days a week, 7 days of fuck all. I spent most of yesterday thinking about the exhaust on the car and how it didn't look good in comparison to the rest of the fucking thing. What the fuck is that all about? Fuck this. What have we got? Fuck all, really. Fuck all. I just want to get filthed up for fuck's sake. Come on, you boring cunt. Carl pressed his jeans back up. Pulled his jeans back up, and struggled with his belt, his hands trying to resist the rage that was bubbling, because he didn't want an argument that never helped. He didn't want screaming, so he left. He took his coat, spare keys, and went. I'm taking the car. John pulled another can from the fridge. Fuck off, then. Carl hit the pub after driving around for an hour. He tried to light the football on the big screen but ended up losing interest halfway through his first pint. The beer buzz was wasted on this shit. Some ugly cunt with too much money prancing around a field like he was in fucking Swan Lake. The crowd cheering and then booing. People get what they fucking deserve, he thought. The varnished bar front glared at him, as did the shit carpet, but he liked it there. He liked to drink. The drink ended eventually and he would go home. He knew how to use alcohol. You want another? Martin put his keys on the table and kissed Carl's ear. Not in the pub, for fuck's sake, please. Carl, half smiling, grabbed the inside of Martin's thigh and finished his pint. Yeah, get me a tequila too, please. Oh, fucking hell, you're on one. John playing up again. Yeah, he's a cunt, I left him to it. Oh, dear. He'll be out for the night then, won't he? Are you okay? Just get the drinks. Martin brought the drinks back over and they sat together for a while in silence, head nodding to the 80s video selection on the big screen. Whitney's I Want to Dance with Somebody, like a pastel onslaught of carefully engineered pop music made to appeal to the white market. Shit, and most probably racist too. I had to bring another 4 people in the office today, you understand, don't you? I couldn't be accused of favouritism. People know about us, I'm sure of it. Carl snapped out of his fixation with Whitney and the big screen and crash-landed back into the conversation. But I'm getting the fucking job, right? So what does it matter? They'll only come to that conclusion anyway when you employ me. Martin paused and looked around. That threw Carl, it threw him. This quiet despondency in Martin was a masterclass in management control tactics, a mixed signal. Martin could be thinking anything, but Carl knew he wasn't getting the job. He knew deep down that he wasn't cut out for running the floor, and he also knew Martin wouldn't let him, whatever the outcome. Martin cared for him, and unbeknown to Carl, there was no way he was going to let him into the world of lower floor management. It was worse than cleaning the fucking toilets 5 days a week. There were no rules anymore, no respect for anything. People were brutalised in this job. They had to be, in order for the profit to remain in the hands of, well, himself and his boss, little Robbie, the 5-foot owner of the business. Little Robbie had given Martin things in life that no love could ever produce, although with Carl it was coming close. Even so, Martin was still not prepared to endanger his position by employing somebody at management level that would fuck it all up, and Carl would fuck it all up because he just wasn't fucking interested in the job. Do you want a line? Carl stopped trying to read his face and nodded. Well, go on then, fuck it, how many you got? Martin laughed. Fucking hell, easy, Tiger, I bought an Emery, fucking £100 and it's decent. Carl cut a large line out, about half a gram's worth, so he thought. He took it all up his right nostril, had a piss, then walked back out. He loved this little walk back to the table in the pub after the first line, just before it hit his bloodstream proper, like a time capsule of absolute bliss. No worries, no crunching realism nagging at his senses. He laughed. Nice gear, you cunt. Carl pulled Martin's jeans down just above his knee in the car. The plastic bag full of takeouts rattled as Martin kicked them over in the passenger seat. They wanked each other off. It was nearly 10 p.m. Back at home, John sat over the laptop. He liked the orange and black design on the Pornhub website. These colours made him feel like he'd reached his destination. Every time he Googled the word porn, he got an unparalleled rush of excitement. He hit categories and went straight for the group sex movies, where he'd flick in between 2 or 3 films until he saw a bit that he liked, which he kept pausing and shifting back in between bouts of posing in the mirror, press-ups and snorting coke. He was well prepared this time, very well prepared. He'd taken the precaution of buying 4 grams of base speed because coke wasn't enough, and he had lately started to think that speed was the better option. It retained that heightened state and at a fraction of the price. Buying it, however, was a completely different experience from that of coke. Speed had long been relegated to the lower divisions of heroin, and there was no romanticism, no Roman orgies. John knew these dealers, but he didn't like seeing them. They reminded him of death, of hopeless addiction in shit kitchens with shit fridges and shit tattoos, and he believed he wasn't quite there yet. Not yet, anyway. After 3 hours of watching porn, John checked the time. It was 9:38 p.m. and after 10 more press-ups and a fat line of coke followed by a ball of bass, he flew upstairs to have a cold shower. He was sweating uncontrollably. He hated this bit because it felt powerless to the physical harm he was putting his body through, and hoped the speed would kick it in to make him think otherwise. After a somewhat hectic shower, he dried and threw his joggers on a vest and long coat, along with the easiest pair of shoes he could manage in this state. He was shaking and absolutely fucked out of his mind, with an ever-growing sense of dread at Carl coming home before he managed to escape into the night with his packed lunch and hard cock. The park neared as he headed for the back way, avoiding the main streets, occasionally watching the porn video on his phone before but being careful not to pass any CCTV cameras, which, as any self-respecting pervert would tell you, was becoming quite impossible. He'd heard stories about people getting beaten up by lads from the estate across from the cemetery, gay bashers who would slip into the park and head for the back way, although their supposed disdain wasn't solely fueled by homophobia. They had also assaulted hetero couples who were into dogging too. He positioned his door key between his fingers and clenched his fist so that his key stuck out, a makeshift weapon just in case one of the cunts came near him. He'd fucking make sure he'd hurt the thick little cunts, those fucking thick cunts. The back way wasn't lit. Occasionally, the police would request that the council lit the area to distract people from going up there at night, but it didn't work. Wrong John Silver trod carefully as he approached the park bench that was squirming with flesh. He pulled his joggers down to reveal his tiny drug-saddled dick, wiggling like a failed maggot and letting out a heavy sigh. He quickly made sure that his packed lunch didn't fall out of his pockets before settling in for the night. Thank you.